Okay, this is the last episode in our first part of our team coaching series. I hope you've also been able to listen to the ministry team workshops in episodes 13 to 30, which correlate to these coaching episodes. In this episode, I'll introduce you to a tool to evaluate church planting teams and leaders. This can be adapted to be used in a variety of ministries. What does it take to be a leader in the body of Christ? What are the skills or competencies necessary? In this episode, I'll provide 10 competencies that have been identified in order to be an effective church planter. As a network, our philosophy of ministry is that it is a team sport, so it is unlikely that one person is proficient in each of these, which is why a team approach is more effective. So instead of just looking at each of these as applying to an individual, it is helpful to think in terms of where the potential team is weak so that we can find others with complementary strengths. For the purpose of this assessment, success is defined as starting or leading a ministry that is growing and reproducible. A ministry that is expanding through evangelism and making a difference in the community in which it exists would be considered a growing ministry, and a ministry that is recognizing, training, and releasing leaders is considered reproducible. This questionnaire is organized around 10 competencies that reflect these definitions of success, growth, and reproducibility. The purpose of this inventory is to identify a leader or the team's area of strength and also areas that may require growth in order to facilitate the development of others to meet these needs. As you can see, there are 10 competencies which are assessed in this evaluation tool. Ideally, each person on the core church planting team should do this survey, but let me explain each of these. The first is visionary leadership. Does the main leader or someone on the team have the capacity to cast vision, initiate plans, generate support, and achieve significant tasks? Intrinsic motivation. Is there someone on the team who is a self-starter and motivated to work with diligence and excellence? How about creating ownership of ministry? Is someone on the team also able to communicate and include participation of others in such a way that participants gain a strong sense of ownership and feel a continuing responsibility for the success of the ministry? Fourth, there's connecting to the unchurched. Does your team or members who naturally reach out to the unchurched and influence them towards a relationship with Christ and the church? A fifth competency is interpersonal skills. Who on your team demonstrates solid interpersonal skills and possess the ability to negotiate a wide range of relational dynamics? And then responsiveness to the community. Is someone on the team able to interpret demographic data, understand local communities, and implement culturally relevant ministries? And 7, promoting the gifts of others. Who identifies, develops, and empowers others to serve in a way that is consistent with their gifts and skills? Of course, flexibility. Is the team able to respond and adapt to change and not be hindered from accomplishing the intended mission? And then building cohesive groups is number 9. Can your team identify and organize widely differing people into effective groups which function as a unified body? And finally, resilience. How resilient is your team? Can it keep on course in the face of major setbacks, disappointments, and opposition? See, once the main leader or each member of the church planting team finishes this questionnaire, the results can be tabulated using the various tools that we've provided. Research indicates that those who do not have a high rating, numbers 7 to 18, in the first 6 competencies will likely not experience success as a leader of a new church plant. But as I've mentioned, this is why having a team approach can ensure that as a team they together possess these qualities. Now, a medium or low rating in these areas does not necessarily mean someone cannot be involved in church planting, but it does indicate that the candidate may need more time to develop in some areas or have others on the team that have these strengths. In either case, the assessment will help to identify areas of needed development, and with the help of mentors and a ministry coach, each person on the team can develop. This is actually the purpose of this coaching series and workshops. Combined, they can be a framework to equip teams. It is highly recommended that if the team does not have a high rating in the first 6 competencies, either delay the church plant until they personally grow in these areas, or perhaps consider having a role with others on a church planting team. So as we wrap up this episode, let's look at the playbook for this section. To begin with, here are a few questions to consider. Discuss the 10 key competencies with your team. Do you see these in those who are in the church planting in your organization? How important do you think they really are? And what is your current process for identifying and releasing church planters? Is it effective? What are the weaknesses and the strengths of your approach? You send out individual church planters or church planting teams? And what is the positive and negative of each of these approaches? Now, for each of the sections of this coaching guide, we provide ministry team workshops which are designed to help anyone serving in the body apply these principles. Now, this section includes the entire workshop, Global Strategies and Local Strategies, which is contained in episodes 25 to 30. These provide a biblical and historical foundation for the missional church and relevant principles, and then how to apply these within a local church context. Our goal in this series is to become healthy as leaders in churches so that we can reproduce and reach more people with the good news. There's also a link to my podcast on building multicultural teams, as well as the missional church, which traces God's continuing mission with humanity throughout history. The key resource in this section is the Church Planters and Leaders Competency Assessment, which can be used to identify 10 key competencies of a church planting team. Our Pathways of Implementation provides instructions as to how to minister and evaluate the results of the Church Planters and Leadership Competency Assessment. I've also provided a guideline page which we have used to integrate the coaching sections in the workshops. The elliptical diagrams explain the flow of the coaching sessions and the workshops and how they fit together. The blue one illustrates how this material can be used within existing churches, and the brownish one for establishing new ministries. You get links to all of these resources in the description box below. Now, perhaps it would be helpful for me to explain the two diagrams that I've been alluding to throughout this team coaching series. Now, the blue ministry renewal process diagram illustrates the various resources available, listed in the light blue boxes in the central circle. In the next circle are the workshops for teams. These are listed in the white oval circles. Now, the team coaching sessions we have been discussing are listed in the farthest circles and are itemized in the dark blue rectangular boxes. See, the process typically begins with the core team doing section 1 of the team coaching session, and then teaching all those in some ministry in the church the workshops, Leadership Foundations, and Mentoring 101, or Developing Others 1. See, each coaching section then has corresponding ministry workshops and has been outlined in the coaching playbook in each episode here in this series. The goal is to bring renewal to an existing church or ministry through this series of workshops. The following episodes, 13 to 30, cover the team workshops that you can use to do this. Now, I've also provided the grid I've used over the years in the form of an objective sheet. This provides the order and some further directions if you want to use some or a portion of this program. If you're a real keener, you can also download the Coach's Action Plan, which is a flowchart that identifies where each workshop would be helpful in equipping an existing church or a new church. The brownish or orange ministry planting process begins with the Church Planters Competency Assessment, as in this scenario we are starting something from nothing. As you can see at the center of the diagram, each resource or tool is listed from phase 1 to phase 6 in the process. Each phase depicted by the white circle leads the leadership from identifying potential leaders and then equips them to mentor a team in phase 2, and then helping them build a team and going through the workshops. The coaching sessions are also listed then in the rectangular boxes. All of these materials are available in English, Spanish, Russian, and French, and some of the materials are also available in German, Mandarin, and Kiswahili. Of course, you're free to use these as you see fit within your context.
This series is based upon our MCNet coaching and ministry guides. There are basically 2 parts to the series, 12 episodes that cover the 5 sections of the coaching guide, and 18 episodes that cover the 8 workshops of the ministry guide. As a team, we have had the opportunity to serve in various parts of the world over the last decades using these materials to equip leaders and coach ministry teams throughout our ministry coaching network. This leadership team coaching in episodes 1 to 12 are intended for the core leadership team and cover big picture issues that affect the whole ministry. Here, issues regarding sharing vision, developing healthy culture, bringing about change, and multiplication strategies are discussed. There's a playbook at the end of each of these first 12 coaching episodes. which serves as a guide to help implement these church health and growth tools. These first 12 episodes then coincide with the ministry team workshops in episodes 13 to 30, which are designed to equip every member as they serve in the body. You can also check out our Christian Leadership Institute training program. This is a unique approach to ministerial training based on a competency-focused mentorship. The free materials for this series, as well as the coaching and ministry guides, are available from the links in the description box below. Just as many others have, we are sure you will find our other Leadership Matters podcast series helpful for you and your ministry.
Well, those who love serving God's people wish that they could just continue doing it forever. Though we can always serve in some capacity, our role eventually changes, and we need to be prepared for that transition. This requires being intentional and planning for others to succeed us. If you had a chance to listen to my Finishing the Race podcast series, you'll notice I'll discuss there in greater length this process. Well, it's the goal of some to die preaching in the pulpit, and it may sound somewhat heroic. I am not sure if this is a healthy biblical approach. I would suggest that this is often just a cover-up for pride and not wanting to let go. Servant leaders are those who can step aside at the right time in order to see others take greater positions of influence. Our personal identity should not be wrapped up in our ministry. Our goal needs to be eventually transition from carrying the full load of ministry to helping others take responsibility to carry that load. In the Old Testament, we see this intentional succession from Moses to Joshua, or with Elijah and Elisha. Even the Jewish priests at 50 years of age were required to change their role of being more of a coach of others. In the New Testament, we see Paul passing off the baton to Timothy and Titus, and so on. I guess my point is that it's inevitable, so why not plan for it? The emphasis of my life and our coaching network has been the need to be intentionally engaged in mentoring, and this is precisely why. If we have been developing others throughout our life, then succession need not be traumatic for us or for those that we're serving. If we cultivate a mentoring culture within our churches and organizations, then the ministry will continue regardless of who is actually in leadership at the time. So while God gives each of us purpose until our very last breath, through every stage of life our role changes. This is healthy for us as well as for those we serve. The ultimate example of this, of course, was Jesus, who mentored 12 men who multiplied his ministry in the decades after his death and resurrection. You'll find a link to the download some of the material on this topic if you're interested. Well, that about wraps up the 5 sections of the leadership team coaching based on our coaching guide. These 12 episodes were designed with the core team of a ministry or church in mind, kind of a behind-the-scenes how the sausages are made approach when it comes to church and ministries. But as I've been mentioning, each of these episodes corresponds with a workshop that would be helpful to share with those serving in the church or anyone from the congregation that may be interested. So in the following episodes, 13 to 30, I'll be continuing by discussing each ministry workshop in the series. Some are several episodes long and complete in themselves right here, while others are just a single introductory episode, which then points to a longer podcast series on the topic. So I look forward to having you join me in the workshops. Lots of great teaching ahead that is very practical, and will help all of us who are serving and equipping others in the church.